Hi everyone, I am back for book club reading number 5 of this amazing book, Manifest: 7 Steps to Living Your Best Life by Roxie Nafousi. Now, I would hope that anyone who's watching this has watched parts 1 to 4 so far, because what I am doing is I'm reading through this manifestation book by Roxie Nafousi. And I'm reading it through with you guys because my intention is to share some of the practices that have made the most difference to not only myself personally, but also clients that I've worked with over the years. And when my daughter came across this book, it was just so simply written. And I mean that in the most positive way, not in a derogatory way, because sometimes some of these practices can be very overcomplicated. And what I love about the way Roxie's written this book is whether you're an experienced manifestor. I mean, I would count myself as manifestation is something that I've known about for a long while, that I've been practicing for a long while. But other people I know are very new to it. And whether you're experienced or new to it, I think this is a brilliant book for you, because sometimes we need to get right back to basics and actually do it. So I have been reading through this, putting a few of my thoughts and comments in the hope that we can go on this journey together and start creating some really good new habits for ourselves. So the great thing about it is that I'm hoping that everyone will get their own copy of the book, because and multiple book points, I'll put the links below the video as usual, but about how to get in contact with Roxie, how to buy a copy of this book. I mean, it's everywhere. You can Google it and get it everywhere, not just on Amazon, but also your local book suppliers. But there's some brilliant exercises to do throughout this book. So sometimes for me, I love listening to things in audio form as well as actually reading. So the idea is that these readings that I'll do will complement the book for you. So last time we got up to page 50, which was step 2, part 3. And so step 2, let me get my little bookmarks out. Step 2 is removing fear and doubt. And we got up to the section starts on page 51, which is cultivating and practice self-love. So as before, I'm going to start reading it for you, and I will be adding my own little tidbits as we go along. Here we go. Cultivate and practice self-love. Self-love is the driving force behind manifesting. When I began writing this book, I kept trying to figure out where I should speak about self-love. It isn't a step in itself, but whenever I tried to fit it into one of the other steps, I couldn't help feel that I wasn't giving it the attention it deserved. I realized that self-love needs a section all of its own, because self-love is more than a step in the process. It's the foundation upon which all the other steps are built. Once you begin to practice and cultivate self-love, your ability to manifest will become infinitely more powerful. Self-love empowers you to step into your light, to step into your greatness, and to open up a space for abundance to enter your life. Self-love tells the universe, I am worthy of love, I deserve success, I'm ready to live my dreams, and then this is what you should receive. When we love ourselves, we embrace all that we truly are. When we love ourselves, we rise above our fears, doubts, insecurities, and limiting beliefs, and we unlock our fullest potential. There's no greater gift that we can give ourselves than the gift of unconditional self-love. Without self-love, you cannot manifest. There's no point in creating a vision board and talking about the life of your dreams if, day by day, you still treat yourself with disrespect. Now, the reason I wanted to do this self-love section as a separate section is, as we're finding out in this summary that Roxie's written, self-love is massive, and it can be very triggering to a lot of people to talk about self-love because it means something different to everyone. But hopefully, as we go through this chapter, we're all going to get some clarity. So how do you begin to cultivate self-love so that you can unlock your fullest manifesting power? Well, first, I should clarify what self-love really means. Self-love means truly valuing your own well-being and happiness. Self-love means showing up for yourself and championing yourself. Self-love means letting go of judgment, regret, and negative self-talk. Self-love means embracing the most authentic version of yourself. Self-love means offering yourself the same level of kindness, patience, and forgiveness that you offer so frequently to others. Now, that list is on page 52. And what I do, and what I'd really encourage you to all do, is to really go through that list and really take some time to consider it, and really take some time to consider which bits of those are you good at and which bits of those would really transform your life by paying some more attention to. So, for example, for me personally, the first one, self-love, means valuing your own well-being and happiness. So I do spend a lot of time in my day doing things that make me happy. So, for example, just before I did this, I went on a really lovely dog walk with my dogs. And I know I talk about it a lot, but for me, Lola's in the background there. I've got people in the garden, so she might suddenly start. Oh, actually, excuse me 1 minute. Lola has just highlighted to me there's a bumblebee on my mat. So I need to show the bumblebee some love and get it out before the dogs eat it. 1 moment. Sorry about that. That was really important. I noticed that that was an unusual behavior for Lola to do, to go over and sniff. And she went over. It was actually not a bumblebee. It was a honeybee. And it was a bit drowsy, but it's absolutely fine. So I've just put it outside. So apologies for the interruption. So yeah, I'm very good myself personally at valuing my own well-being and happiness. So I'm really, really good at nutrition, making sure I give my body the right nutrition. Getting enough exercise is really, really important to me. It's really important to me that when I spend time doing stuff that makes my animals well and happy, that is a form of self-love for me as well, because it makes me spend time doing stuff that's really good and healthy for myself. But perhaps where I'm not so good is the third one here, letting go of judgment, regret, and negative self-talk. So I personally can identify that that's an area for self-development for me. I am getting better at it, but I still have some work to do on that. So it's really worth, when you see these little exercises, rather than skimming through it, either at the time of reading the book or listening to this video, you can pause it, go back, or later when you've got a little bit more time perhaps, is go back and really think about these questions, because the gold dust, the real breakthroughs, are in those realizations of, okay, this is speaking to me. This is an area that I know that if I spend some investment in getting better at this, this is going to transform my life. Just thought I'd share that with you. There are a million ways we can practice self-love. We can make a conscious effort to practice and demonstrate more self-care, more self-respect, more self-discipline. We can create healthy boundaries. We can let go of things that no longer serve us. We can be mindful of the way in which we speak to ourselves. To practice self-love, we can fuel our minds, bodies, and souls with nourishing food, thoughts, and ideas. We can start saying no to the things we don't want to do. We can do more of the things that make us happy. We can practice meditation. We can journal. We can exercise. We can look after our skin. We can prioritize sleep. We can drink more water. We can offer ourselves more compassion and kindness. We can offer ourselves a space to explore all the parts of us that make us unique. We can speak to ourselves in ways that are kind, encouraging, and supportive. There are countless ways we can practice self-love. In fact, I could write an entire book about it. I so agree with that. That's why I wanted to spend some time on this section, because to me, this is absolutely key to developing any area of your life that you've got. And when we get this right, when we practice a self-love to ourselves in whatever form that means to you, then it's so much easier and more effective to do it with those loved ones, two-legged or four-legged around us, and in fact, with community and humankind and animal kind. But really, for me, cultivating self-love comes down to one thing: becoming aware of the choices we have and the decisions we make in each and every moment. Every minute of every day, we have an opportunity to practice and cultivate self-love. Every minute of every day, we have to make a choice. Do I choose to act in a way that is self-loving or in a way that is not? How you spend your time, what thoughts you choose to attach to, what perspectives you choose to adopt, who you surround yourself with, what decisions you make, what behaviors you accept from others, how you govern yourself, what commitments you make, how you feed, fuel, nourish, and move your body. All of this matters. It all reflects your commitment to yourself, your well-being, and your capacity for self-love. And it's that very commitment to yourself that shows the universe what you believe you are worthy of. Remember, we manifest from our subconscious beliefs about what we deserve. I'm going to read that again, that last sentence, because it's so important. Remember, we manifest from our subconscious beliefs about what we deserve. I'm just going to apologize if any of you can hear dogs barking in the background. It's my neighbour's dog has been going mad for about 10 minutes. He's fine, but I think they've got visitors. So I do apologize. I can't stop that barking because it's not my dog. So what does that bring up for you about we manifest from our subconscious beliefs about what we deserve? I think this is really key. We can see how we treat ourselves, and there's every day-to-day actions we take has a huge effect on our ability to manifest. So if you're really good at manifesting and you're, and it comes naturally, fantastic. It's probably a reflection that you're pretty good at self-love as well. But the exciting thing I find about all these things is not thinking, oh, it's not flowing for me and therefore I'm not good, and beating yourself up. Completely the opposite. How exciting is it when we realize that there's such simple ways that we can improve our lives and everything in it. So if you recognize any of these things that we've read so far, you think, do you know what, that's an area I can improve on. Grasp that with both hands, because when you just concentrate on improving that, you're going to see every area of your life improve. Can you see Coco asleep on the table behind me by her favorite aloe vera plants? And then I've got Lola and Indy on the couch there and Lola on the bed behind. This is part of my self-love, surrounding myself with animals. So begin to cultivate self-love. To start making decisions that will lead us to cultivate self-love, we must do three things. Number one, become aware and mindful. We can't make mindful choices if we aren't aware of the choices available to us. We have to start taking time to pause and ask ourselves, is there another way I could do this? A way that is more loving and more compassionate? For example, if you've been trapped in the diet cycle for years, then you find yourself cutting out food groups, skipping meals, or obsessing over some new fad diet, then take a moment and consider whether this is really a compassionate and self-loving way to act, or whether there's another way you could choose to treat your body and approach your relationship with food. Could you stop skipping meals and attaching guilt to your food choices and work to replace those behavior patterns with mindful and intuitive eating principles, for example? Or if you watch the news first thing every morning and you find it always leaves you feeling frustrated, sad, or anxious, ask yourself, is this really helping me to start my day in the best possible way? Could I make a more self-loving choice? Could I choose to start my day listening to music, journaling, or incorporating a 10-minute yoga flow instead? Number two, honor where you are. What we need day to day, moment to moment, is always going to change. Some days we wake up and feel ready to take on the world. Other days we feel tired, flat, and overwhelmed. Self-love means honoring yourself in each moment and making decisions that reflect how you were feeling at the time. Get into the habit of checking in with yourself and asking, where am I at today? How do I feel and what do I need? Imagine there's a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being at your lowest and 10 being high vibe superhero. What you need will differ depending on where you sit on that scale. If you're at a 3, let's say, then what you will need will likely be permission to rest, nourishing food and fresh air. But if you're at a 9, then you need to go ahead and use that energy to make choices that will propel you closer to your manifestation. Get creative, be productive, and move your body. Don Miguel Ruiz wrote an incredible book called The Four Agreements. I love that book. In fact, I'm going to read it again. I've read it twice, and each time I've got something very different out of it. So I really recommend that to anyone that hasn't read it. I recommend it to everyone, and one of the agreements is this: always do your best. He writes, your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstances, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Self-love means giving your space to be human, to acknowledge that we all feel differently day to day, and to give yourself what you need, taking that into account. Sorry, another slight interruption. Number 3, honor where you want to be tomorrow. Our lives are really just accumulation of the choices we make. When we act in ways that are self-loving, we honor not only what we need in the moment, but also where we want to be tomorrow. So often we make impulse decisions that satisfy us in the moment, but negatively impact on our future selves. Anyone who's ever self-sabotaged, which I'll assume is every one of you reading this, will know what I mean. But self-love is taking authority over that drive for instant satisfaction and instead making choices that will serve your future self. This is something that Bryce and I have talked about a lot. Make choices today that your future self will thank you for. And I really believe that makes all the difference. So that's something that I'm consciously aware of each time I make a choice. For example, if you had to have a deadline for tomorrow and you choose instead to go out or procrastinate by scrolling through Instagram, you're simply sabotaging what your future self needs. By making the choice to apply self-discipline and focus on meeting the deadline, however, you will have made a decision that honors what your future self needs and deserves. That is practicing self-love. The ultimate practice of self-love is perfectly balancing what you need today with what your future self needs tomorrow. Self-love manifests itself in every decision we make. Each and every day, commit to finding more ways to show up for yourself and demonstrate the compassion and love for yourself that you deserve. Keep doing this until it becomes the automatic way you govern your life. Keep practicing until your cup is so full of self-love that it pours out into everything and everyone around you. What a lovely thought, isn't it? That is so true, that when we really do that, it's so much easier to treat everyone and everything around you with love. Forgiveness and non-judgment. I couldn't talk about self-love without talking about forgiveness and non-judgment. How many times have you made a mistake or acted in ways you weren't proud of and then berated yourself for days, weeks, or many years? When we hold on to shame, guilt, anger, and resentment, we keep ourselves trapped in the past. We hold on to the energy of those experiences, which keeps our vibration low and holds us back from all we want to manifest. A client I began working with at the start of 2020 told me, I want to manifest it all: a new job, a new apartment, a feeling of true confidence, and her soulmate. Within 6 months, everything she had wanted to manifest had come to her except for her soulmate. I started to ask her a little bit more about her past relationships, and she revealed that she had been cheated on by her last 2 partners. She said that she had mostly blocked out the experience, but that, deep down, she still blamed herself for allowing it to happen. And she constantly questioned whether she had somehow pushed them to cheat her in the first place. She also said that she felt embarrassed that, as a successful career woman, she had not been able to see the signs right in front of her. By attempting to block out the experience, she was not allowing herself to practice all of her feelings surrounding it, or to change the narrative of self-blame she had attached to the experience. Remember that trauma, pain, and emotional distress are all energy. When they are not given the time and attention they need to be moved, released, and healed, they live within our physical body. This means that when we try to block out our past experiences, They have nowhere to go, so they stay within us, lowering our vibration and keeping us trapped in the past. My client's experience was affecting her in another way too. By blaming herself, she was creating a subconscious fear that history would inevitably repeat itself. It was only when we worked together to create a safe space to process the experience, to remove self-judgment and blame, to choose a new perspective, and instead for her to offer herself complete compassion and non-judgment, that she was able to move her deeper subconscious fears around meeting someone. I also encouraged her to work with one of my favorite mantras: my past does not dictate my future, as a reminder that she has the power to change her future story. In doing the inner work, she was able to create room for her soulmate to enter her life. I received an email from her just recently, and the subject line read, "I met the one." It's so important, isn't it? I think it's such a lesson for all of us that our past do not dictate our future. And when we really work on truly believing that, again, everything around us changes. I really do promise that. Please do let me know below what your experiences have been with that, because it's really lovely to share what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you. To unblock the path that leads us to our most magnificent future, we must let go of the parts of our past that cause us to feel those low vibe emotions of shame, guilt, or anger, and instead offer ourselves complete non-judgment and forgiveness. To do this, we must acknowledge these three truths. Number one, we were doing our best at the time. Number two, there is always a valuable lesson to take from any and every experience. And number three, we are not the same person we were then. We have since grown, evolved, and matured. An exercise. I want you to think of something now that you are holding on to, something you are judging yourself for. Write down the experience you feel shame, guilt, or anger around. And this is what I love. I know I've shown you this before, but in the book, there's lots of little exercises where you can actually do the exercises in the book. So if you're listening to this now and you're driving or something, perhaps come back later on tonight, set yourself a little bit of time, and just, I really encourage you to do these exercises, because it's so important that we actually do the work, because that is so, so important. That's what's going to really shift it for you. So the second part of the exercise is now write a letter to your past self. Offer yourself compassion and kindness, and acknowledge and identify whether your actions were driven by pain or insecurity. You might write something such as, "I forgive you. You were doing your best. I know you were hurting at the time. It's okay. I love you." And then the third part of the exercise, now write down the lessons you learned from the experience and the value you have taken from it. And again, there's room to do that in the book, or obviously you can use your own notebook or journal to do that. Repeat this exercise for anything you are still holding on to. Note, every time I've done this exercise in a workshop with others, there's been a release of emotions and tears. If you find yourself crying or feeling particularly emotional whilst doing this, please allow space for that and allow yourself to feel liberated in doing so. That's so important. The truth is this: by learning from your mistakes and experiences and by evolving through them, you practice the greatest form of self-love, which is to grow. Read that again. So I will. The truth is this: by learning from your mistakes and experiences and by evolving through them, you practice the greatest form of self-love, which is to grow. Self-love is the driving force behind manifesting. So we must cultivate it every day through consistent practice and commitment. We must make choices to behave, to respond, and to think in ways that build our self-worth and propel us into becoming our most powerful selves. We must offer ourselves non-judgment, compassion, forgiveness, and kindness every day and in everything that we do. No act of self-love is too great or too small. From drinking a glass of water to leaving a toxic relationship, everything we do defines who we are and who we become. Note, I understand that for some people, the idea of cultivating self-love may seem incredibly daunting. especially if low self-worth and self-esteem currently seem to limit you at every turn. You may be thinking, sure, it sounds easy in theory, but how do I suddenly just act like I love myself? I understand your reservations. I was so consumed by my self-loathing my entire life, I never thought it would be possible to reach a place where I could honestly say that I love who I am. When people said the word self-love, I would roll my eyes as though it was some imaginary concept that would never be within reach. But with time, practice, and commitment, I did reach it, and so can you. Undoing years or decades of built-up insecurities, limiting beliefs, and low self-esteem is not something that can be done overnight, but we can make the decision to begin making more loving choices right now. The decision to commit to self-love is half the battle. Then it's about choosing each day and each moment to cultivate more self-love in your life, little by little, because that is what you deserve. The more you do it, the easier it will become and the more natural it will feel. When we cultivate self-love, we simultaneously work through the other steps in the manifestation process. Right, that is the end of section 2. We've gone up to page 60 and we're going to start next time, step 3, which is aligning our behaviour. So 10 pages that last section was, and what a lot is covered in that. This is one of the sections of the book that personally I re-go over often, because it's something that sometimes, you know, little thing can jog you or perhaps set you off course again. And when you recognize that and you have that awareness, you can course correct much quicker and then get yourself back on track. So I think this is probably just such an important little section of the book that we can all work on. I would love, love, love to hear your comments below about what does self-love mean to you? What have you found has worked for you? Because you can share that with everyone and really start to make a difference. And also let us know if you need a little bit more help through it, because that's something that also I can chat through in some of my other chats with other people. So wherever you're at with it, just recognize that and start and just watch how much improves for you. I love this book. I really appreciate anyone who takes the time to listen to these, because it's one of the things that is something I incorporate into my life. When I share with others, it makes you reinforce those aspects in your own life. So it's a really, really important bit to do. So I'd encourage you to have some of these conversations either in person or online with people that are close to you. And if you haven't got any humans to do it, your dogs and cats will love it. So thank you for listening. I will be back with the next stage, which will be part 6. And we're getting through the book. Don't forget, you can go back and re-listen to these as many times as you like. So sometimes you can listen to when you're walking, when you're driving, when you're doing the workout, when you're doing your oil pilling that Bryce and I have started, whatever it is for you, little bite-sized chunks, but repetition makes a big difference to sort of really start changing our thought processes, changing our beliefs. So thank you for watching. I hope you're all loving the book. Let me know how you're getting on, and I will be back next time. Bye.